And welcome to what's the very first video of what I hope to be a series of videos on spear technique. Basically from beginner level all the way up to advanced level. I've been doing this since 1994. It's my primary weapon, and I would not be doing this if it wasn't for the fact that there is almost nothing on YouTube. I think there's just a huge gap of knowledge out there that I would hopefully like to fill with this. I'm putting this onto a page on Facebook called The Spear Page. You can do it with spaces or without spaces, it doesn't matter. And also what I'm hoping to do is to grab some of those videos I've already found. There's a couple of videos from Duke Branos I think are really good. There's one from a night that I saw I think out in Kaid that was pretty good. So anyway, this is the very first video that we're putting together. And being the first video, we're going to start with the basics. So what do? You just bought a spear, maybe you've got yourself a Pel. So first things first, what I like about Pels. So what you need for a good Pel for spearing is something that's relatively stiff but still has a lot of give to it. My first spear Pel way back in the 90s was a tire swing. One tire wasn't heavy enough. One tire sort of flopped around every time I hit it. So I actually came up with 4 tires. I tied 4 tires together, 4 truck tires, and that seemed to be about the right amount of weight. It moved a little bit, swung a little bit, but it wasn't too much. I don't like tennis balls on ropes. I hate those because I find that you're either going to throw your arm out because there's no resistance when you hit it, or you're going to throw light all the time and you're not really practicing good technique. One of the good things about spear, when compared to say a single sword, is that spear is very forgiving on the joints, provided that you have a good Pel that's a little bit has a little bit of give to it, but also a lot of resistance. It's very forgiving on the joints. You can throw a spear pretty much 100% force throughout most of your practice and not really hurt yourself. You don't want to go hitting a tree or a brick wall. Again, you're either going to hold back to where you're not really using full technique, or you're going to hurt yourself. So things like I said, tire swing with a lot of tires on it. I've never used a tether ball. I've heard some people recommend a tether ball. It might be hard enough. Frankly, I don't personally think there's a whole lot of value at hitting something that's moving around, hitting moving objects, because the reality is we're not hitting moving objects when we're spear fighting. We're hitting objects that are relatively static. I mean, they dodge around a little bit like this, but they're not swinging and flopping around. So I'm happy enough with something that's static. You can hit a tree, but make sure it's a thin tree, maybe something like that big around, that's got a little bit of give when you hit it. And my favorite, so this is what I worked on. This is a box that an elliptical machine came in. And what I do is I take the box, I just stuff it full of crap. Stuff it full of cardboard, any kind of non-smelly garbage, old pillows. I think there's like an old carpet in here. Rubbermaid lid technology, and this has worked. And just to give you an idea of about how stiff this is. See, it's got some give. Bounces, moves a little bit. Okay. But not too much. So I think that's about the ideal give right there. So this is it. This is my Pel. I also have a standard sword Pel upstairs. I've got wrapped with carpet. It's 2 2x4s. It's about this tall, and it's got some feet on the bottom. I've occasionally used that one because I wanted to work out upstairs, and I can't drag this up with me. And with that one, what I did was I put like a 50-pound weight on the front and stack some like gallons of water jugs around it to sort of keep it a little stable, because when I hit it, it would sort of wobble around too much. So it's trying to get to just the right amount of stiffness. So that's it. So this is a Pel. Okay, and what we want to do with this Pel is, this is going to be very simple. Hit it. That's really lesson number 1. Hit it regularly. And the reason behind this, and a lot of people sort of I think they underestimate the spear. The spear is very easy to pick up, especially if your goal is to go out into battle and get some kills and not die. The spear is a very easy weapon. It's very easy not to die with a spear. Just stand behind people. If you see other spears on the other side, stay away from them. but you're not really spearing when you're doing that. That's not really where you're hoping to get. So a lot of people underestimate it. They go out there, they're like, oh, the thing pokes like this, and well, I'm done. The goal is really not to just be a spear fighter, but to actually be good at it. Good enough so that the good guy on the other side has to worry about you. And so you're preventing him from killing people, and you're maybe a threat to kill that person, or the shield's the other side. I mean, so you actually want to be a threat. It's not, if you go out there and say you get 2 kills and you don't die, and you think like, wow, I did way better than do a sword and shield, not good enough. Maybe you should be getting 5 kills. Or maybe you should be preventing someone from the other side from getting 5 kills. So the reason why we practice with a Pell is I just weighed my spear with my gauntlet in my hand, and it weighs about 5 pounds. Okay, the total gauntlet plus spear is 5 pounds, and the spear is 9 feet long. So what you're doing is you're controlling this really long, heavy stick at the end of your arm. Okay, and you're throwing this thing, and this is not a very natural thing for your body to do. So what we're doing by doing Pell work, like I said, if anything, you're just throwing at it. Spear is very forgiving. You're not going to develop too many bad habits, unlike sword and shield, where you can you know, really mess up your elbow if you're using bad technique on your wrap, or if you're getting to some bad habits that makes it easy to lose an attorney. I find spear to be very forgiving. If you get out there and just learn to throw some shots, and then if you find out that your technique is inferior to someone else who's killing you all the time, and you make some adjustments to it, I think spear is very easy to make those changes. So I wouldn't be too worried about reinforcing bad technique. Just get your spear out and just start spearing against the target. And again, what we're doing, we're just trying to build some sort of neuromuscular reinforcement. We're going to improve basically you're getting used to it. Okay, we're trying to make this second nature. Best example I can use at my level of spearing, again, I've been doing this since 1994, is I spear with my left hand. I'm actually, okay, so here's a question, which hand should you spear with? I'm actually right-handed. I swing a sword right-handed. I swing a pole arm with my right hand on the top. Most right-handed people like to spear with the right hand on the back, so that's their arm they're controlling everything with. You'll find that a lot of people who fight pole arm will actually fight spear left-handed, because we get used to swinging with a pole arm and then thrusting with the right hand up and forward and thrusting for that position. So that's why I fight left-handed with a spear. I probably have, on the Pell alone, 100,000 shots that I've thrown with my left hand. My right hand, I'm probably in the 500 to 1,000 range. So the difference between my left hand and my right hand, the main difference is not even so much hitting the target. I can hit a target with my right hand just as well as I can with my left hand. The main difference is my left hand is second nature. I don't think about it. If I see a shot and I throw it, it just goes, and there's nothing awkward about it. It feels just as natural as walking. When I shoot with my right hand, there's all this brain activity that's going on that's making me think. I mean, everything feels awkward. When I throw it, I'll still hit the target. It doesn't feel right. I'm not quite getting power. Nothing's sinking in. I pull it back. I have to think what's the next thing to do. So I'm occupying all this space in my brain. And so if I see openings, they don't come fast enough. If somebody throws a shot at me after I throw it, after I throw a shot, I'm not ready to block it. Forget about field awareness and commanding. Can't do that while I'm thinking about spearing. So that's what we're trying to do when we do all this Pell work, is we're trying to get this to become second nature in the back of your mind. I think a realistic goal for somebody is 100 shots in a session. That should take you about 10 minutes. The most I ever throw is about 300 shots. So I'll do about a half-hour session. I'll throw 300 shots. And I like to group them in sets of 10. It's just a way to sort of mentally break it up. I'll do 10, and then I'll just rest for like a minute. I don't time it. I'll just rest for like a minute. Sometimes I work it into a workout. I'll throw 10 shots, and then I'll do some push-ups, or I'll do some jumping jacks. Ideally, do it with your gauntlets on. Okay, both gauntlets. So what I like to do is I have a piece of tape on the floor that is exactly 10 feet away from this target. Now, again, I've been doing this for 20 years. For me, 10 feet is the very edge of the danger zone. If you have your front foot 10 feet away from the target, so this is the person you're trying to hit, so they're 10 feet away from you, you're 10 feet away from them. The front foot, so the body's actually going to be maybe 11 feet away. Okay, this is the very edge of the danger zone. So if I'm standing in a spear line, somebody fires at me, they can hit me from 10 feet away. I can take one step back or lean back just a bit and I'm out of range. Okay, so this is in range, this is out of range. Every time you throw a shot, until you get used to this, every time you throw a shot, you want to throw your shot, pull back, stop, look down and see where your foot is. So we talked about targeting about 100 shots, do them in groups of 10, put a piece of tape on the floor, get yourself a good Pell, practice with your gauntlet. Okay, so the other thing I want to tell you when you're spearing, and this is something that you have to think about in your mindset, when you jab in boxing, you want to come back twice as fast as you go in. So you jab, you're always coming back. As soon as you get that shot moving, everything you're thinking about is your body wants to land, you contact, and you're immediately trying to get right back behind that line. If you practice that, this is going to double your effectiveness as a new spearman. So here I am standing behind my line, and what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of footwork. It's not too complicated. Start off with whatever is most comfortable with you, whatever is going to get you out in the field the quickest. I've found I've changed my footwork 4 times. Significant changes 4 times over the last 20-something years. Again, it's very forgiving. I wouldn't worry too much about developing habits that you have to change later. So the very first technique that I'm going to teach is what I just call the step forward. One of the best spearmen I have ever fought uses this technique. I find it the easiest. And again, all you're doing is I'm going to start off about 11 feet. I'm going to step forward, my front foot. The spear comes through at the same time, so I'm not going to step forward and then throw. Okay? I'm going to do it at the same time. Something to think about as you're practicing this. So I'm going to go forward, step forward, step forward. There you go, that's the step forward. Second one is a little more advanced. It's going to be a little more tiring. Maybe if you're a bigger guy, this is going to work for you, but maybe at least if you're, if you're watching this, you might come up with your own hybrid technique or something like that. And I call this the split foot. So what's actually going to happen is my right foot's going to go forward, my left foot's going to go back. I'm going to lift my body up off the ground in order to do this. And what's happening with this, by splitting the legs, it's actually helping to rotate the hip through, which rotates the shoulders through. Again, the spear is supposed to come out as your feet are moving, not after. So this is the split leg. The third technique we call the kicker, and it's basically the same technique that is used in ice hockey on a slap shot. So when a slap shot comes through, well, it's been a while since I played hockey. Slap shot comes through, the foot sort of kicks up in the air. So here's my right-handed slap shot. Boom! The foot sort of kicks up in the air a little bit, and it's driving your left shoulder forward. Well, in this case, my left shoulder, and it might be a right shoulder for you. Driving it forward, and the foot is basically used for balance. So let's see if I can do the kicker. It's been a while since I've done that, so I'm a little awkward on it, but. Okay, that's the kicker. And then the last technique I'm going to show you, it's not very common. It's actually the one that I use. I started working on it last year when I felt I needed to get faster. So the last one I've developed is actually the front foot slides forward ever so slightly. So in order to do this, I have to stand in range. Being 6'3", this might be something that's maybe easier for me to do than a shorter fighter. But what happens is the right foot comes forward a little bit, and then the left foot actually kicks back. And as the left foot kicks backwards, what it does is that kicking backwards throws the shoulder forward. So again, the biggest thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this shoulder forward as quickly as possible. So this is the technique that I'm most familiar with, at least I'm the most practiced with right now. Last piece to talk about is what does the right hand do? Right hand does whatever you want. Most top level spearmen that I know fire 90% of their shots one-handed. Okay, what that means is the front hand comes off the weapon, and it's hanging out here somewhere. It might be hanging out over here, it might be back over here, but it comes completely off the weapon. This again allows you to sort of drive your hips around, and you can also throw some interesting shots. Those will be in later videos. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can keep your front hand on the weapon and do more of a pull cue technique. So pull cue technique. Okay. When I fight right-handed, this is more or less what I do because I feel very awkward right-handed. So usually I get myself in a position. I usually avoid the really good spearmen when I do this. If I get some sort of position, maybe there's a shieldman up there, and I'll just because I just don't feel comfortable pulling my left hand off. Anyway, so that's it in a nutshell. Do me a favor, if you have any questions, send them to me. If you have any videos you've seen out there that you'd like me to see, I'd love to check them out. Like I said, I've not seen a whole lot of stuff out there. Anyway, hopefully this is something good. Tell your friends, and say hi to me next time you see me.